Tonight on KGW News, potholes in the streets and cracks in the sidewalks. The new audit that shows $1 billion backlog.
So many assets may be in danger of failing.
Plus, Oregon takes the lead in suing the Trump administration over the president's tariffs.
It has made we the people feel vulnerable and insignificant.
Then, how a pup's run-in with a porcupine nearly cost him his life.
We found quills that had migrated into the chest, and one was right near the heart.
And later, call it a chain reaction of kindness.
I think seeing all the people that I've helped, it's been life-changing.
How one person's selfless decision sparked connections that saved 5. But we begin tonight with breaking news. In the city of Portland targeted in a multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. $6.7 million caught up in the scam, though it appears tonight the city's on track to get it back. Here's what we know right now. The city funds were supposed to go to the Bull Run filtration project. Instead, the $6+ million was deposited into the account of a New York law firm. That law firm, the city says, provided information that it was also a victim of fraud. The funds are now in the custody of the U.S. Marshals Service. Right now, it is not clear how the scammer got access and why the law firm was involved at all. You can be sure we're asking the city for more details on all of that. Now, if this sounds at all familiar, the city was also targeted in 2022. A Florida woman admitted to being part of the scheme that resulted in a $1.5 million loss for the city. At the time, it was the largest in its history. Investigators say in that case, a city email account was hacked using malware that allowed scammers to misdirect funds meant for a housing project. The perpetrator there was sentenced to 5 years probation and ordered to pay restitution. We'll keep you updated on the latest scam as we learn more. Well, now to more bad news for the Rose City in the form of a $1 billion backlog after a new audit found it would cost the city $1 billion each and every year to catch up on repairs. We're talking everything from playgrounds to potholes. Catherine Cook's in the newsroom. Catherine, this sounds absolutely brutal.
It is, David. Remember, the city is also facing a $93 million budget shortfall. They admit there's not a lot they can do short term, but they are working on a better system for tackling maintenance, since clearly the old one wasn't working. When it comes to city maintenance, Portland is $1 billion in the hole, potholes included. And that number isn't just a pot shot, it's real. According to a new audit, it's what Portland's facing every year, up to $1.4 billion to catch up on needed repairs.
It's a number that is so big that it risks kind of not meaning anything.
Casey Jones is the city's audit services director. He says their findings show the city's old form of government is one reason for the backlog. For decades, city executives were in charge of individual bureaus instead of taking a broad look at how best to maintain all the city's assets. Jones says that includes everything from aging community centers to streets and sidewalks and things you can't see, like sewer pipes. The auditor's office found that a street in good or fair condition costs a lot less to repair than those in poor condition.
There hasn't been anybody looking at the whole problem. We're now like turning the lights on and everybody can see that it's an elephant, and how do we deal with the thing that we see now?
My mantra has really been back to basics and prioritizing taking care of the assets that we have in our city.
This week, Portland City Councilor Olivia Clark drafted a citywide strategy for asset management. She shared it with other members of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, hoping for feedback on how it might work as an ordinance.
This will help us get a handle on those liabilities.
How do we deal with the deferred maintenance that comes along with our assets so that we're not basically tripling the cost over time?
For their report, the auditor's office surveyed city employees working in asset management. One person said, quote, "We are great at buying shiny new things, but we are not good at maintaining, operating, and renovating the assets we already have. So then the assets end up making the decisions for us when they fail, and we must decide to replace them or not. It becomes a game of whack-a-mole." Jones says their efforts won't end with this audit.
So we'll come back next year, say, how are you doing on the things that you said you would do?
And that includes those asset management strategies we discussed. They'll continue discussing it at their May 12th meeting. If it does take the form of an ordinance, they'll hold a public hearing around it. David.
Sounds like City Council's got a lot to think about. Thanks, Catherine. By the way, as Catherine mentioned, this comes as the City of Portland faces a $93 million budget shortfall. Today, the city administrator announced he's targeting a 20% cut across core city services over the next fiscal year. Those include communications, engagement, equity, human resources, tech, procurement, and finance. Sounds like everything, right? Staff reductions, contracts, and spending are all on the table. We'll keep you posted. Okay, let's take you outside now with a live look over downtown Portland tonight. 56 degrees now on what was a picture-perfect day, especially if you like the 70s and lots of sunshine. Chief Meteorologist Matt Savino here with your first forecast. Matt, sounds like there's a lot more where that came from.
Yeah, we still have a clear sky right now, and we'll have a clear sky all day long tomorrow. It is 56 degrees. The winds are light. The sky is clear. Now, out of the Dalles, a little bit cooler, down to 51, light winds there, also low humidity. And this is a great location, near the Dalles anyway, to view the dark sky. This is International Dark Sky Week, and here's a great picture from South Central Oregon down by Silver Lake. Kyle Sullivan from the BLM shot this at Duncan Reservoir in Citadine. You can see the stars, the Milky Way. So again, this is a week, especially with the weather we have, to go celebrate the dark skies around Oregon. We have several dark sky sanctuaries just so you can do exactly that, not have city or man-made light interfere. All right, our high temperature today was 73. That is 10 degrees above average for this date. Medford, 74. That was the hot spot in the state today. 50s and 60s on the coast and mainly 60s over on the east side. We'll be clear in the morning, 44, 69 by noon, and then we'll climb up to 78 tomorrow. Some parts of the valley may touch 80 degrees tomorrow afternoon. Then it begins to cool off. As we go into Friday, we'll talk about the chance of showers and just exactly how cool it'll get in a bit. David, back to you.
A lot of folks would call 78 the sweet spot. Thanks, Matt. In an update tonight, it appears voters in Battleground have once again turned down a request from the school district for more funding. New results from the special election show a replacement levy meant to fund education programs and improve student safety is failing by about 500 votes. The district, by the way, says these funds account for about 13% of their budget. Alma McCarty takes a closer look.
Voters in the Battleground School District will be asked to consider a replacement education and operations levy.
Despite educational videos, FAQs, and a community push,
we're dead in the water.
The latest results from the Clark County special election showed the Battleground Public Schools replacement levy failing to pass.
Every school is going to be affected one way or the other by this levy not passing.
Terry Dotson with Battleground Citizens for Better Schools explains this was the second time this year they looked to voters for funding approval.
We lost the first levy in February by 60 votes.
The district says the levy dollars made up the difference between what the state provides and what it actually costs to run a school. A spokesperson confirming that they are moving forward with $20 million in cuts for next year, which means approximately 200 employees will be let go and many programs will be affected.
Dotson, a grandparent to kids in this district, says students will lose out.
The bus routes will be longer. It will eliminate middle school sports, which just came back after a 25-year hiatus. It's going to be a reduction in psychologists, reduction in teacher librarians, a reduction in teachers holistically.
I love education, but the whole issue here is a matter of balance.
Dick Rylander, also a grandparent here, views it differently and urged voters to reject the levy in the voter pamphlet. He argues people are just tired of being asked to pay more.
I am concerned, but the reality is that I think the public believes that the school districts and government in general needs to live within the same means of the people who have to pay the bills.
In Battleground, Alma McCarty, KGW News.
To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, Portland police have arrested a suspect they believe was involved in a shooting near Southeast 106 and Stark around 6 this evening. Police believe the victim was dropped off at a hospital. Authorities say they got a tip the suspect fled to a neighborhood near Burnside and 122nd. People in that area were told to shelter in place, though that has been lifted since officers found the suspect. Oregon is leading the charge in a lawsuit filed by 12 states over President Trump's tariffs. The suit claims the president's executive orders setting new tariffs are not legal and should not be permitted to take effect without the approval of Congress. Here's what some Oregon business owners said at a news conference announcing the lawsuit today.
It's going to be hard on me to make decisions whether I can stay in business. Can I weather this storm? I don't know.
Many businesses say consumers will ultimately pay for the tariffs, which are taxes on imports, in the form of higher prices. And the Oregon Ethics Commission has reactivated its investigations into former Secretary of State Shemia Fagan. Fagan resigned in May of 2023 after an ethics scandal over her work moonlighting as a consultant for a cannabis company while her office was auditing the cannabis industry. Fagan apologized for taking the outside job and attributed it to, quote, poor judgment. Well, tonight we are just 2 weeks out from the Real ID deadline, which means you'll need an upgraded driver's license or other form of ID like a passport if you want to fly. In Oregon, the Cedar Hills DMV was flooded today with long lines stretching outside the building, and once inside, it was practically standing room only.
Yeah, I went down to the Hillsboro location and the line was way too long, so I came up here and it looks like the line was a little shorter.
All right, a little bit shorter is good news. Oregon's DMV says it's been seeing 55,000 people a week come through, and they don't expect that to change anytime soon. That said, here's what you need to know come May 7th.
You only need a Real ID if you're 18 years and older and going to travel on a domestic U.S. flight so that means anywhere in the U.S., and you don't have another form of accepted federal IDs.
Okay, here's where it gets a little tricky. While Oregon's federally compliant IDs are actually called Real ID, and you see that star there in the upper right, in Washington, they're actually known as an enhanced driver's license or ID card, and they feature a flag instead. The TSA says if you don't have an ID that's Real ID compliant, again, Real ID in Oregon, enhanced driver's license in Washington, plus passports, etc. You might still be able to fly come 2 weeks from now, at least for a time, but listen to this, you're going to face a lengthier security process. Who knows how long, right?